Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic is widely regarded as the best Star Wars game of all time. It's one of the most commercially successful and critically successful Star Wars games ever made, and has a special place within the Star Wars fandom. But both KOTOR 1 and KOTOR 2 clearly envision something grander than just two stories that never conclude. You can clearly tell that there was a trilogy planned, or at least envisioned, much like the originals and the prequels before them. KOTOR 2's cliffhanger left so many of us on edge, desperate for what comes next and a conclusion to one of the greatest Star Wars stories ever. And despite all of the speculation and the rumours, KOTOR 3 never came out. It never saw the light of day. Instead, the company that didn't want to work on it again so they could make Mass Effect came back 8 years later to create an MMO set in the same universe. And regardless of what you think of the Old Republic MMO, it's not KOTOR 3, it's not the conclusion of a trilogy that we had all hoped for. It was something different, yes, and something different can be good, but many of us are still itching for that true conclusion. So that begs the question, doesn't it? KOTOR 1 was one of the best-selling Star Wars games of all time. KOTOR 2 is still considered to be one of the most gripping and engrossing Star Wars stories of all time. So why was Knights of the Old Republic 3 shelved and forgotten? Now there is one major factor when it comes to the cancellation of Knights of the Old Republic 3. And when I say cancellation, I do mean cancellation. The game was in full pre-production. The story was developed, planets and characters were drafted, quests were drafted. This was a game that was in full pre-production. And the major factor for its failing was LucasArts. BioWare, the creators of the original game, had no interest in creating a follow-up. They were fully focused on their own IP and creating a game that was similar to Star Wars, and that's why Mass Effect was born. So, after the conclusion of Knights of the Old Republic 2's development, the team at Obsidian were planning their vision for Knights of the Old Republic 3. However, as we all know, Obsidian didn't own the rights to KOTOR, so this was nothing more than a pitch that they were hoping LucasArts would accept. So with BioWare out of the equation and a strong pitch, Obsidian felt a kind of ownership of Knights of the Old Republic and wanted to conclude the trilogy. But there was some restructuring happening within LucasArts at the time, and this restructuring came at the worst possible time for Obsidian. In 2004, a new president of LucasArts was appointed, Jim Ward, and he decided to completely restructure the company and invest into it rather than on external developers. Much of the success of Star Wars games boiled down to the success of other studios, and the new president wanted this to change. The financial figures for LucasArts, despite the Star Wars license and a myriad of other IPs, were dwindling. And these cuts were so drastic that they reduced the staff of LucasArts from around 450 to 190 developers and employees. With the focus now on the internal studio at LucasArts, Obsidian's pitch was rejected. Despite Obsidian having the passion and the drive to finish the story that they wanted to finish, with the focus at LucasArts looking more inwards, Obsidian's pitch was rejected. And this is because there was a team within LucasArts that wanted to continue the trilogy themselves and to make it. So an internal team at LucasArts began to develop Knights of the Old Republic 3, and they began to draft the story. They were deep in pre-production of concept art, character names, planets, questlines, and even loot. But the same reality that allowed the internal team to begin development of KOTOR 3 was also the deciding factor in KOTOR 3's death. LucasArts at the time were struggling financially. This isn't some big secret. This is why KOTOR 2 was extremely rushed, because they wanted the game to get out faster so they could get the money quicker. They had so many different products and titles in development, but their income just wasn't sustainable. It wasn't profitable to continue all of them. So, KOTOR 3, along with many other projects, were canned around 2005 and were lost to time. And the sad reality is, KOTOR 3 wasn't the only big name franchise that got the cut. Others such as Rogue Squadron, X-Wing, and even Jedi Knight Jedi Academy 3 were all cut. The only games that survived the planned cuts were Republic Commando and the Revenge of the Sith video game, which were developed in-house, and of course LEGO Star Wars and Battlefront 1 and 2, which had been in development for 2 and 3 years, respectively, by Pandemic and Traveller's Tales. But this in-house restructuring for LucasArts didn't actually go very well. They tried their hand at creating several of their own IPs, such as Fracture, and many of their older IPs were abandoned. Their iconic games of the 90s, such as Monkey Island, Grim Fandango, and the general adventure games that they were known for, were all kind of treated as worthless by LucasArts at this time, and knowing that they had a piece of gold in the Old Republic, LucasArts returned to BioWare, who wanted to do something different, and thus the Old Republic was born. However, since the Old Republic's release, many industry insiders have claimed that BioWare, on numerous occasions, have actually pitched Knights of the Old Republic 3 to EA, so have Obsidian apparently. However, every one of these pitches have been rejected. So the real truth of it is that the death of Knights of the Old Republic 3 is attributed to LucasArts' mismanagement. They took on too many projects, they were financially unstable, and they simply could not get these projects going in the situation that they were in. And it's kind of sad if you think about it. The 2000s are considered to be the golden age of Star Wars gaming, but underneath all of that gold was a cacophony of failings and mistakes that led to its downfall. But that is indeed the harsh reality of games development. But I think the confusing thing is that LucasArts decided to cancel one of the best-selling Star Wars franchises that they had at the time. KOTOR 1 was the best-selling Star Wars game ever on the original Xbox, and KOTOR 2 did quite well, although not as good as the original. So for a company that was struggling financially, it was weird to see that they would cut one of their biggest financial assets and go through the risk of making something like Fracture and Republic Commando that didn't necessarily have that foundation of success. Now, of course, Chris Avellone, the writer of KOTOR 2, has gone on record and explained what sort of game Obsidian were planning. He did an interview a couple of years ago detailing what the vision for KOTOR 3 was, but I'm not going to go into that now because I intend to cover that in a future video about Knights of the Old Republic 3. So be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you're fully up to date when that video releases. Now let me know in the comments below, what are your thoughts on Knights of the Old Republic 3? I would absolutely love to know, would you have preferred BioWare to tackle the sequel, or do you think Obsidian should have been given the chance to continue it? Personally, I would have liked to have seen Obsidian, led by Chris Avellone, continue the story that they so beautifully established, but that's my personal bias because I thought KOTOR 2 was much better than the original, and so I wanted to see those guys get to conclude it. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe and hit the notification bell if you want to see more Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic content from me. Also, while you're here, don't forget to come and follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and join the Discord server because I would love to have you there. All links are in the description below. And if you'd like to support the channel a little bit further, perhaps consider taking a look at Patreon. I'll see you guys in the next video. But until then, may the Force be with you. Always.